What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be another new album review for a 2021 album, and I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from the band Callus, entitled A Breath of Fresh Air. Now this is the band's second studio album in the band's discography, as that it was the follow-up to their debut album, which was released a few years prior to this, as the band had released different EPs on the Bandcamp website. And speaking of Bandcamp, this was another band that I've discovered through that website. And just like with this band, Callus, with their fantastic album Dark Majesty, I've done an album review of this particular record. And please do check it out, because this is another really great strong band for you to dive in on the Bandcamp wagon. But with this album here, A Breath of Fresh Air was released to the record label of Trepanation Recordings, and this was actually released on the same time when Mastodon have released their brand new album, another one which I've done a very positive review on. But I was really interested to continue my journey into diving in some more newer sounding bands in that metal spectrum. Just like with Callus, this is a band that they are infused where they make and create music in the stoner, sludgy, doomy type, and Callus was a band that really intrigued me from the look of the artwork, and especially onto one of the tracks here called Quartet, which was released prior to the release of the whole thing of this album. And I'll have to say, with this album, this is absolutely one of these new up and running metal bands that you should definitely digest and get your eardrums into checking this band's material out. There's a lot to really dive in with the way this type of band really sounds. And the more I thought about the material on the album, there are numerous occasions where there's so much of the dedication. And I have to finally say that this was a really inspired album, because I hear some occasional parts on these tracks, like on the track of the opener, Molar Crown, and also on the longest track on here, Fatberg, where some of the riffs really do make me think on a bit of some new metal kind of riffage, but some of the sludgier, brutal sounds on the bass lines and the guitars make me think on other bands, like a tiny bit of Sleep, but also with my own ears, it makes me think of like a groovy, thrashy type of Machine Head part of music. But I'll have to think that there's so much to think about on the album, that there's really, really good, passionate and awesome material on the album. The opening song, as I've said, of Molar Crown just starts things immediately with some of their catchiest riffs, and there's so much hook onto this particular track here. The musicianship has a lot of chemistry, it's all well balanced and mixed together. This is a song that really does get a lot of the adrenaline going. Cinder Stella is another one that I really like a lot. I do like the different change of tone onto the vocal performances, and I think that there's a bit of a variety into the way these types of songs were written, because with the track of Fatberg, as I've mentioned, this is one of those experiences where tracks like these two, that they go in various ways of creating a riff that still sounds as punchy and grunty, but I think that the musicianship really delivers so much onto these separate pieces. The pieces of some aggressive vocals and guitar riffs, and the other half explorative, and combining all these things together. That's what I really like so much about this album. The production on this record is also fantastic. I love the guitar's distortion. It's so cranked up into the mix that it can be really fuzzy oriented. Kind of makes me think and reflect on maybe on a High on Fire type of sound. The way these guitars work, so gained up into the maximum amount of its tone. And also the vocals from Lewis Clark, who's done the guitar work on the record as well. His vocals are brilliant on this record. They bring in so much of its own dynamic addition. And at one point, that weirdly, these types of vocal makes me think of Chuck Billy from Testament as like my own prime example of the way I would describe these kinds of vocals. Yet alone that some parts of the music on this album can be pretty thrashy, but don't expect it to be like a faster Slayer or an Evil type of spectrum here. This is a band where it does incorporate so much rhythm, but they go in numerous time signatures and various speeds. But I think that the majority of this album here has a lot of chemistry that was just incredible, and the sound of the drums on this record and the performance of the drums done by Sam Kelly, as well as percussion, I really like his own texture. And just like with Lewis on the guitars, there are numerous pieces that these types of things blend. And also on the vocals and bass from Ben Wormwell, I really like his bass lines on a lot of the tracks on this record. It's just like a dominating type of formula which really adds a lot of these top-notch qualities. And like I said, that this is like an inspired record, and if you really want to get into something like this, then look no further with Callus's new album, A Breath of Fresh Air. It's a fantastic record, and by all means, if you really have the chance to see them live in this upcoming UK tour that they are doing after the release of this album, then I do advise you to seek out the band live, give them a lot of support, and also buy their music, as I have ordered their new album on the Bandcamp website, and I couldn't recommend this enough, as well as the really good artistic, spacey type of album cover art here. That really was something to behold, and with a band like this, talented and as gifted, this is absolutely one of my favourite records of the year, because every time I think about the material on here, it gets better and better. On repeat listens type of expression and choice, the production, and also these psychedelic but also brilliant ways sound of a band like Callus, that they can really grab your attention to absorb and make you really gel into this type of music. That's all I would like to say on A Breath of Fresh Air by Callus, and let me know what you think of the record in the comments down below for those that have heard of this band already. And I am going to give this record a 9 out of 10. So these types of bands releasing new material and to get attention through a website like Bandcamp, this is one of those bands that you need to get yourselves into. So that's all I would like to say about this new album, A Breath of Fresh Air from Callus. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.